5 minutes with fucking Mad Dog. Um, this is part two of the mental health issue, so I'm just going to dive in. So I left on a point about the state of affairs in our society, and I want to tie that into why people might feel depressed or feel negative emotions. And I think that, you know, I don't think there's such a stigma around mental health and talking about it these days, but there was for quite a while. And I think that comes from an expectation that everyone should just feel good all the time, and that, you know, we shouldn't complain about what we have and the way things are, because, you know, that's where they are and they can't change. And I think that that's a fallacy. And, you know, we shouldn't complain about the things that we have. But if our situation is not to our liking, and if we look around and see things that are upsetting, which, you know, when I look outside my balcony and I just see like concrete buildings and no animals and like a few trees and no one with a smile on their face and everyone's stressed, like, I see that as a problem, and that does cause me suffering. And that suffering, which affects my mental state, is the most crucial and positive driver for me to try to make a change in myself and in the world at large. And I think that, you know, as a people, we can be quite apathetic to our situations, and it's easy to say like, oh, well, you know, I didn't make this fucking mess. It's not my problem. But in some ways it is, especially if you believe in the cycle of samsara and death and rebirth. And, you know I've done some pretty badass shit in my previous lives, so I'm trying to, you know, kind of make up for it now. But, you know, we all are responsible. And, you know, you see on these hot topics like on equality and gender roles and racism, like, you know, apathetic attitudes being thrown around. Well, you know, well, I'm not fucking racist, so what do I need to change for? And I think that, I mean, that was kind of my initial response to a lot of these topics. But as I've gone a little bit deeper, I think that, you know, we all have a role to play in this world, and we all are connected. And, you know, we share our suffering and our mental states. And when all of the marketing and all of the social media and all of this communication is trying to tell you should be a certain way that is so far removed from the natural order of things that it's like fucking disgusting, then yeah, of course you're going to feel uncomfortable. So I think on that topic, I just want to say that, you know, study that discomfort and follow it in yourself. And if it's affecting your mental state on a day-to-day level, then consider what changes you might be able to make in your life to combat that. Because, you know, being trapped in a state of fear and in a lower state of consciousness, that's a very sad situation to be in. And unfortunately, most people are unaware that they're even in that situation. Sometimes they just feel anxious all the time, or they just feel depressed, and they take medication, and it just, you know, it helps for a couple of months, and then it just doesn't work. I mean, look, I've never taken any medication except for hard drugs, so I don't really know. Yeah, I guess the biggest cure-all for me has been, you know, I've cleaned up my health, I've cleaned up my fitness and my external situation. But the biggest breakthroughs have come in studying Eastern philosophy and Tibetan Buddhism, especially Dzogchen, and looking at some unconventional wisdom. I think in the West, we're attached to science, and there are some things that science can't answer yet. And one of the biggest breakthroughs that I'm experiencing is the fact that I am not I'm not me, or I am not the character of Mark Lippert or Atma or whatever you want to fucking call me. That's not me. That's a label. That's a label using the tool of language, which is something that was created by men. Or fuck, is that like a gender thing? By man and woman to communicate, right? But that is not the fundamental nature of reality. And I think when you're able to look at yourself outside of your ego perspective and say, yeah, cool, okay, all right, sure. In some ways, yeah, I'm Mark, and this is the avatar that I exist in to navigate the world. Cool, I'll look after that guy. But when you realize that's not all there is, or that's not even the majority of what there is, then you're able to look at your feelings and suffering from a place of detachment and not be so closely, attached to these things. Again, that's 5 minutes up. Part three? Yeah, I think so.